Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Kingdom Contractors Academy. I'm here with my lovely wife, Yadi Neth Barbosa, aka Yadi,
Yes.
aka my Shodi. And we're happy to be with you here again. And today we have a very interesting topic because it's a topic that most entrepreneurs ask themselves, especially blue collar, which is what this podcast is about. And that is, when should you start a business? So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to talk about three key elements to consider about when to start a business and the three, at least, first initial steps to consider before you launch your contracting business.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, any business for that matter. So with that being said, let's get right into it.
Okay.
So number one, we'd like to start with understanding your minimum cost of living, right? It's basically your budget, your expenses. Why? Well, first of all, let's clarify that there is two different types of individuals here, right? And we see them because some of them are generally within the avatar of our coaching clients who we help support in building their contracting business. We have an individual who has a family man, in other words, right? Has a family, has a mortgage, has bills, and then we have a solo single man or woman, maybe in their early 20s, that for all intents and purposes is okay with sleeping, on a cardboard bed in a single apartment, in a single apartment, or at mom's house for that matter. So it's kind of different, right? What kind of a budget or expenses one really requires. So Yadi, what would you say would be like the minimum monthly savings, and then we'll get into why.
Yeah, I would say on average, I always recommend people have at least minimum of 3 months of savings. Just that's why you have to start with understanding your minimum cost of living. So whatever that is, let's say it's 10 grand a month, save that and put it in your savings. 30 grand, put away, you don't touch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that 3 months, that 10 grand can be different for someone else who maybe doesn't have a family and a mortgage and a few cars, right? Maybe for that individual, they're willing to go, with half of that budget because again, they have the ability to really constrain and not have that demand. So
Yeah.
so for whatever it is, not to say that young 20s don't have budgets and expenses, but it's different for everyone. Know your expenses. If you haven't done it, sit down with your partner perhaps or solo and do a very basic budgeting of what your true nut is. Like what is your true cost of living? And like Yadi said, 3 months minimum. Some folks like maybe Dave Ramsey, they say 6 months of savings. The more the better, but a minimum of 3. Why? Well, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
What is it really like? Let's say I wanted to start a contracting business tomorrow. In terms of cash, of requiring that kind of a investment, what's the very first expense that you see needing to happen?
That's a good question. I don't know.
It's okay. So let me help you.
Yeah.
It's the compliance, right?
Oh,
It's the
yeah.
licensing.
Oh, you're sorry. So you're going official. You're going legit. So the question is here, that's why I got confused, because are you going legit or you're not going legit? If you're not going legit and you're not going to get your contractor's license, you're not going to get insurance, you're not going to file, take your Secretary of State, file LLC, all that stuff. If you're just literally charging people and they're sending you money through Zelle, Venmo, or just cash, that's a very different story. Now, if you're trying to go official, you definitely want to, your money is, a lot of it's going to go into compliance right from the start. Why? Why is that important?
Yeah. Well, look, again, to your point, right? If you're going to go full license, there's a process to that. And, there's a lot of pros, some cons, you still, there's two things you're going to do in this life. One is die and the other is pay taxes. So yeah, you're going to have to pay Caesar what's due to Caesar. And so, but it also gives you the ability to bid on bigger job, to be able to market and advertise without a license or a building permit, depending on what kind of business you are. All kind of different contracting businesses require a license, a contractor's license, and that specialty. And then separately, you need your local business license, right? Some other businesses, like let's say You know, you're selling churros on the street or something like that. Just requires a city permit to operate. Contracting is different, just like restaurants are different. You need to get your food
And
licensing, your alcohol licensing, right, is different.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this though, in that regard, because you say legit versus not legit. Okay, maybe we have,
I feel like we have both here.
maybe we absolutely do, and that's what I'm asking. Maybe me and you have different opinions.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone? Do you think that you think it's bad to not be legit? Should everybody go legit? Meaning licensed?
I would say that not being legit is lucrative. It's almost like playing with the devil. It feels too good. You're like, oh, this is going really well. I'm looking at all the money that I'm getting paid from like fixing this like water heater. Like I'm putting it in my pocket and I'm good, you know? And however, you can end up being there for too long and then you will not go legit. That's the problem. So it's like you just don't want to play with that temptation for too long.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
my advice.
Interesting perspective. I don't disagree with that at all.
Yeah.
Look, here's the reality, and we got to be, when we're not promoting to not be legit, especially if our attorneys listening to this, right, or the contractor state license board, or you know. But with all seriousness, the state contractor board, they recognize that a big majority of tradespeople operate without a license. It's no secret to them, right?
Yeah.
They know that. Look, I did it, right? Everybody does it when you're starting off. You know, you're not gonna, you know, you're doing little side jobs for your neighbor, for your uncle, whatever, and before you know it, you know, you're picking up some bigger jobs. But to Yadi's point, that can get very comfortable, and we know folks that have gone, you know, 5-10 years of working under the table, and our only opinion to that is one, that it's very risky. There's a lot of liability because you cannot operate under the table and have workers' comp at the same time. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You cannot work under the table and get paid cash and expect to be able to be insured in case something was to happen, right? And so there's a huge liability to you and to your client and to the employee or staff if you have anybody. And to me, that's not worth it, right?
Yeah.
On a liability perspective. Now, on a growth perspective, to Yadi's point, you know, like you're never going to be able to be legit. You cannot market. You cannot drive a truck with a logo on it. You know, you can get fined. You can get arrested and get into a lot of trouble. So
yeah, and if you do get sued, you don't have the protection either, because most likely you're not an LLC. You're not very legit. So you don't have that protection. So if you do get sued, somebody's like, hey, like let's say you did some work at someone's house and you did a horrible job and maybe they felt like you ripped them off or whatever, and then they sue you, you're going to get in a lot of trouble. But two, if you do have any assets, that's like liquidated damages right there.
You're not getting out of it.
No.
You're not getting out of it. And imagine one of your guys falls off a roof and breaks his leg.
Yeah.
And you have no workers' comp and you have no ability to do anything well, and your worker's been paying cash as well, or maybe he's, you know,
doesn't have any papers.
Doesn't have any papers. Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I don't know anybody personally that's gone to jail, but I'm sure there's stories. So again, for those two reasons, I just wanted to ask, you know, what our perspective was. But it's very common that most contractors start off with not having a license, but try to get licensed as soon as you can.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, there is an expense for that, and typically it's about $1,200 to $2,000, at least here in California, right?
Yeah.
A couple $100 for your Secretary of State.
With the LLC, and then getting your bank account started, and then you would want to your contractor's license, and then
like another $600 to $1,000, generally speaking.
Yeah.
And then insurance premium.
The insurance premium,
like
based off of the work that you're trying to do as well, and how much coverage you're shopping for.
Yeah.
When you're talking commercial game, that's a whole different. That's a whole different beast.
Yeah, at base minimum, you want to get a license to go do some residential work.
Yeah.
You're talking about, maybe at $2,000 on an average. So right off the bat, there's $2,000.
Yeah.
And then there's obviously now there's the other scope, which is, let's get into it, right? Which is number two, the second thing that we would do if we were starting a business tomorrow. And that is picking the right business model, right? So keep this in mind. the thing that you want to keep focus on is that when you're starting off and you don't have a lot of savings, like you got to start making cash quick. Like cash is king, right?
Yeah.
And so what's the best way to start making quick cash? Well, it's the model, the business model that you choose. In construction, we have the service or new construction model. The new service is to me, in my opinion, the best way to solidify that surety, because it's a quicker turnaround of getting paid and it's a lesser investment of having to perform a bigger project. Let me give you an example. So you get a call and I got my boiler that went out, and you know, you have as a plumber, you have a very minimum truck roll, let's say $150. You know, so you're already getting $150 by going there and at least explaining to the client what it is that he needs to do. Obviously, the key there is to do the repair. So if you can do the repair right away, great. Maybe you need to pay a couple $100 worth of material. You got to make a Home Depot trip. Let's say at the end it's like a $600 to $1,200 ticket, right? Chances are that you're getting paid that money the moment that you walk out of that house, right? Now, the key is to do many of those jobs, as many as you can, from Monday through Sunday, if you can, as you're starting off, right? That is a quick return of cash. You're supplementing your hourly rate, and you're able to not have to maybe draw so much out of your savings, right? So that's key. That's how we started.
Yeah.
It was me, and then I hired my brother, and then we got a bigger, you know, we got some more works. Then we hired 2 more guys. And by the time we were like 6 or 8 guys, we had our first kind of what we would consider a construction type of project. And you know, 8 years later, we're signing $1 million construction deals. But it takes time. Now, to my point, what's the second business model? It's just that. It's the construction model. And for contractors that are starting off, I don't recommend that, because there's a lot of investment that needs to happen in material, right? There chances are that there's city inspections. There's chances are that the customer still needs to approve, and there's probably going to want some what we call punch items or blue tape. And then you also risk, especially if you're inexperienced, you also risk not making money on a job, on a $50,000 job. So imagine it's a $50,000 job. Your material's $20,000. You need to put down 10 of that thousand. Hopefully you get it from your client soon. But you're just spreading the work and you're hoping to make a good return, right?
Yeah.
When you only got 3 months of savings in the bank.
Yeah.
And you just worked for a month and you realize you didn't make a single dollar.
Yeah.
That's the quickest way to go out of business. And I would argue that most contractors quickly go out of business because they take on that kind of a model. So that's what I think.
Or even you just go into it a little bit naive. You're not even thinking like that's a possibility, but you start getting a little bit more aggressive with it, and you start thinking like, well, I just did that job for 10 grand. Like I could do the same thing for something like 60 grand. And then you start getting more ambitious and aggressive with it. And then you soon realize, like, you know, you got your butt handed to you because you didn't make any money on like the larger POs.
That never happens.
All the time happens.
All the time.
All the time.
It happens. Yeah. But Yadi, I want to sign a $1 million contract. Like I want the big work. It's gonna keep my 6 guys busy.
Yeah. I would ask, is that truly what, is that the ego? That's like really the question. Because do you really need to be doing that type of risky work? Or do you want to say that you did that type of work? Like, oh, hey guys, I just signed my first $1 million contract, blast it all over social media, and then literally make no money. Yeah.
I mean, bingo, right? The old saying goes, revenue feeds the ego, profit feeds the family.
Yeah.
Would you much rather do, $1,600 jobs times 30 days, take, $30,000, but take home $15,000 and do a $30,000 job in a month and only take $1,000 home?
Yeah.
Right? And that happens more often than you think. So that takes experience. I'm not saying don't do it. Eventually you want to transition into that. Some companies don't. You see the biggest companies advertised all over billboards. They never get into new construction. They stay to service, and they do really, really well.
Yeah.
And some big contractors never get into service because they've figured out their niche. But if you really see those contractors, they've been in business and in the trades for quite some time.
Yeah.
Mind you, we've been in business for I've been a licensed electrical contractor since 2015, but I had been an electrician for 5 years prior to that, and then had done some construction, right out of high school before that. So we're talking a lot of years before you start signing those kind of deals. And we still get our butts handed to be honest, more often than we probably really wished. So that's contracting for you.
Yeah, that's the nature of the beast, though.
Yeah. Okay, and then we get to number 3. How do you get those clients? Because that's important, right?
Yeah.
So now that you know your business model, you know that you're going to stay in your lane, and you know that cash is king. The next thing is, how do you ensure that you start getting those clients?
Yeah.
Look, our business model, I get a lot of folks that reach out to me on LinkedIn like, hey, I'm thinking about wanting to go EPC, solar, this and that. Look, B2B is hard, guys. The solar industry in itself is a different animal than your typical other kind of a service related job, plumbing, carpentry, or electrician or HVAC, right? Because this is a very high financed venture equity owned assets, and so typically we do B to C or B to B. So we're working with corporations, and those corporations, they have some pretty long payment terms, right? I mean, like we get very lucky when we get anything less than net 30, and it's and it's not so much luck, but it's more that the work requires a very significant amount of specialty and upfront cash or value engineering, which is ours. So we require payment faster than 30, but most often than not in the solar industry, the terms are a lot longer, so it's a little harder to get an entry. Other trades, not so much, and that's really what I like about the typical electrician or plumber or HVAC who's starting off, because it's quicker to get clients. So how do we see our clients get their most clients right off the bat?
Yeah, I would say most of our clients are using paid advertising.
Bingo.
So one of the biggest ones that I've seen, but however, one of the most expensive I've also heard is Yelp. So once you start sponsoring, getting, you're really paying, because anybody can make a Yelp, but then if you really want to be on the search, on the top, on the sponsored area, you got to pay a lot of money.
Yeah.
So one of our guys, actually, our garage guy, how much did he tell you he paid per month?
Yeah.
Do you remember? Because I remember.
5 or 7?
$17,000 he was paying per. He was aggressive though, so he was paying a lot of money into Yelp. So Facebook as well, and Google.
$17,000 a month on Yelp.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have one of our plumbers, I think.
But think about how much money he's making.
And look, again to the point, I don't see any other quick way, right? I mean, look, customer referrals and customer referrals and all that, it's great. That's how I started. I don't think we had Yelp back when I started. But my dad, here's my trick. My dad worked for we worked for a tennis club, right? And so it was very, affluent members at that tennis club. And so word quickly got out that I was doing this service work, and I started picking up some really nice clients. So thanks, Dad. Which is another point, right, that we should say about paid advertisement. Yes, it helps a lot, but it can also very quickly be your Achilles heel.
Yes.
You need to the stars, right? The ratings. You can one bad customer, one bad review, and just like you started spending all that time planning and investing, it can be over just like that. Right?
Yeah, I personally do hire people from Yelp.
Yeah, all the time.
I love seeing the photos. I think that showing your workmanship, like really putting some time and effort, and having your clients like give you a review, it's a huge deal. But two, when you have like negative reviews, and then if it's a review without a photo but it's negative, I question it sometimes, because I'm like, maybe they're just mad.
Yeah, you can't take everybody.
But if it's like a photo of like poorly done work and the review's bad, and like the owner didn't go out of their way to fix it and like respond to it, and like you can tell that they're putting some effort, I usually don't hire them.
Yeah, most 99% of our service base we got a big house, with a little older house, and needs work all the time. Most of them, if not all of them, come through Yelp reviews. So Yelp is huge, Facebook is huge, and Google. We see that most of our clients are doing paid advertising. I mean, literally, we got 21 to 27 year olds that are doing $5,000 to $7,000 of paid advertisement a month, doing $50,000 to $60,000 plus revenue a month, right?
Yeah.
And 90, I would say that 90% of their business comes through these platforms. So
yeah.
leveraging it correctly can be a very quick way to start bringing in cash. Now, I want to say this: let's not get social media confused with paid advertisement. What do I mean by that?
Mm-hmm.
Look, the reality is that 99% of us suck at social media. Our Instagram, our Facebook is not that good. Let's be honest, right? And so you posting organic content, it's very hard for it to ever go viral. It takes so much consistency
and algorithm
and there's so many things that you need to take into consideration that is not what we mean by when people say social media. Yes, that's an element of it, but there's also paid advertisement, right? And so it's two different things. Keep that in mind.
Yeah.
You got to pay to play.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the last one is well, actually there is no last one. I mean, that's it, right? I mean, just to kind of recap, we talked a little bit about the first steps is understanding your expenses. Know that you need to have some savings before you get into this game. Number 2 is pick the right business model. In construction, generally speaking, service is the safest and quickest way to start generating cash. And then 3, make sure that that you start getting clients right away. And the best way to do that, from what we can see, is paid advertisement through the right platforms.
Yeah.
Guys, with that being said, it's a perfect time to start a service-based company. There are a lot of need for this type of service. There's not a lot of contractors doing this kind of work anymore. And the thing is that with bigger type of construction is probably not so much the thing that's going to be booming this coming year. Like the renovations, real estate is low, so there's not a lot of that work going on. But when your boiler breaks, when you work remote from home and your receptacle goes out, or the power of your house goes out, or your heater goes out, like you bet your butt that they're going to be calling for somebody to come repair. And if you're the guy they can answer the quickest, you do the best work, and you know how to run an efficient business, you can blow this thing up really quick. This is the time. If you've been waiting, let this be the calling. And we love to help you on that journey. We've been doing this for 8 years now in business. Where our background, and we just want to make sure that these entrepreneurs do well, and always realize that at the end of the day, we're all here for a greater purpose, and we have a responsibility to leave this world a better place than when we found it. So.
Yes. So drop us a DM, Kingdom Contractors Academy on Instagram, and we can get you set up for a quick 30-minute consultation and see if you're right fit for, coaching client, essentially.
Yeah, pay the fee, subscribe, hit the like, and we'll see you on the next show. Thanks so much.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.